As we inch our way closer and closer to the start of the NFL season, you're going to start seeing this a lot more often. RB trade rumors, wide receiver trade rumors, just NFL trade rumors in general. So we're going to touch on the ones that have most recently dropped and kind of give our thoughts and analysis surrounding everything that CBS Sports listed as 5 running back trade candidates and then a couple of wide receiver trade candidates as well. Welcome into NFL Daily by Chat Sports. My name is Moose. And remember, if you could, hit that subscribe button. We are 644 subscribers away from hitting 414,000 here on the channel, which is an awesome milestone for us. We're trying to get to that before the NFL season starts. So like I said, the NFL trade rumors have just been flying lately. All over the place. And you start seeing teams making calls and making trades. There have been a couple this past week that have already hit. So let's start with the running back rumors. In fact, I misspoke when I said there's not 5, there's 4 main ones. So here's the first one. Trace Etienne, the running back for the Jacksonville Jaguars, who if you would have said this 2 years ago, you probably would have been like, there's no way Jacksonville is going to trade their RB1. Things have definitely changed since then. Tank Bigsby is clearly the RB1 right now in Jacksonville and getting the most of the first team reps. Trace Etienne, while he still does offer a really nice skill set, has clearly fallen back of the pack and is getting now second and sometimes even third string running backs reps. So here's what CBS had to say about Mr. Etienne. New head coach Liam Cohen might be able to jumpstart Etienne after a very sluggish 2024. That's putting it very mildly, in which the former first-rounder lost touches to Tank Bigsby, who listed as a co-starter on the Jacksonville Jaguars' unofficial preseason depth chart. But are we sure Jacksonville wouldn't be willing to outright part ways with Etienne ahead of this contract year? New general manager James Gladstone might like to recoup a pick from his draft day splash for Travis Hunter. There's a lot to unpack there, so let's start with statistically. It was a bad year for Trace Etienne. And I still think he offers value as a pass-catching back. He's not going to be a player that dominates the ground game like you would want him to. Now, does that mean he's as bad as his numbers indicate? No, I don't think he's 558 yards on the ground bad. But somewhere between 700 and 800 is probably what you're looking at for Trace Etienne. Here's the kicker. Tank Bigsby is easily your RB1. And then they drafted the likes of guys like Bashil Tootin in this year's draft. They're younger, got a lot more to prove. This running back room for the Jaguars is looking increasingly deeper as the days go on. But I do think this is a wait-and-see situation for Trace Etienne. I thought last year, under Doug Peterson, things were at their all-time worst for Jacksonville Jaguars fans. Nothing could go right in that coaching room. Liam Cohen is a much younger, brighter offensive mind than Doug Peterson was. Granted, Doug Peterson is a Super Bowl winning head coach, but Cohen will offer a fresh perspective for this Jacksonville Jaguars running back room. So I think this is a wait and see. Check out the first 8 to 9 weeks and how he performs. If he's clearly showing enough to garner some trade value, but not enough to re-win that RB1 spot, then I think it's time to let him go. And CBS says the same thing. They predict that he gets traded to the Miami Dolphins, who, by the way, are dealing with a variety of injuries, especially to that running back room. They need all the help they can get because their number one, Devon Achane, is currently out with an injury, and they've had a multitude of backup running backs go down with their own injuries. So this could be a very easy trade. He stays in Florida. It would just be like, hey, you're going 3.5, 4 hours south. So I think this could happen. Let's go on to the next one. Miles Sanders in Dallas. And as far as you'll see with the likes of these guys, Etienne is probably like the most talented out of all the guys on this list. However, still, running back starting to gain a little bit more traction as a position rather than a couple of years ago. I feel like you could still get maybe a late round draft pick, maybe a day 3 pick for the likes of a guy like Miles Sanders. I'm going to be straight up with you. He just doesn't fit right now in this Dallas offense. Javonte Williams is clearly the number one there after he got, let go by the Broncos, and even he last year didn't have a good season. But I also think that Jaden Blue is going to end up emerging as that RB2. So you could keep Sanders if you're a Cowboys fan and say we need someone to duel as a pass-catching back. But I do think that the Cowboys situation right now is a lot more grim than just, hey, we need a pass catching back. So I feel like trying to reset the foundation of the Cowboys right now from an offensive perspective, especially in the run game, is probably something they're going to at least take as a priority. So I do think that Miles Sanders is a trade candidate for sure. The knee injury didn't help. So the fact that he is kind of slid down the depth chart right now is probably something that didn't help him in any favor. So CBS came out and did the same thing. You're going to see a trend in this video. They said that he gets traded to the Kansas City Chiefs. Now, the more and more I think about that, the more and more I feel like that could be a great spot for him because he doesn't have the pressure of being the RB1 or trying to at least get there because Isaiah Pacheco is clearly your number one. So having a role where you can literally just line up in the slot or on different shotgun formations, just float out into the flat or check it down. That's where he can really thrive, is in that pass-catching game. So will Sanders or Etienne get the boot? It's up to you to decide. Let me know in the comment section down below. Yes or no? I'm going to say yes, one of those two will. I don't think both of them will get traded. Now, before we head on to our other candidates, I do want to remind you that today's episode is sponsored, of course, by our friends over at PrizePicks. It's the best place to get real money sports action on all of your football watching this year. So do me a favor, go to your app store, click that download button and download PrizePicks today. It is super easy to play. Just pick more or less on 2 to 6 players and their stat projections. You get your picks right, you could cash in and win up to 2,000 times your money. It's the best place, like I said, to win cash while watching sports. Join millions of users and sign up today. Like I said, you want to know which players are going off. You want to know which ones aren't. Make your picks in less than 60 seconds and turn your sports opinions into real money all season long. How does it work? Super simply put, pick the player, pick the stat projection. More or less, send that bad boy in. It is that easy. So do me a favor. Download the app and use code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. I will have all of that ready for you in the comments and description of today's video. PrizePicks, run your game. So our third running back trade rumor is Ty Chandler. And I'm going to be completely transparent with you. I don't think he offers much value right now to the Minnesota Vikings. At one point, he was predicted to be the kind of Dalvin Cook savior. But when the Vikings brought in Aaron Jones last year, it really, really took a hit to Ty Chandler. CBS, they did the same thing. They echoed my sentiments. They said there was a time, not long ago, when Chandler was considered the electric change of pace man in Minnesota's backfield, scampering for more than 450 yards as a second-year reserve while helping succeed Dalvin Cook. He did see a major dip in playing time, however, after the Aaron Jones arrival in 2024, and now is on the roster bubble thanks to Jordan Mason's entry and Xavier Scott's strong summer. Here's my thoughts. Move him and hope you get something. This might be like a 7th-round pick swap in this year's draft. But you could get a little bit of something. I don't necessarily know that he finds his way into a spot on this roster, considering the Vikings running backs are pretty much set right now. You got Aaron Jones and Jordan Mason. Well, you could run back with he's the third option. Yeah, but let's be honest. Is he really that good? Is he going to find himself a role as an RB3? Probably not. So could he fit another team's scheme as an RB2? It's possible, especially if you have a team that is needy for a running back too. So let's talk about it. The CBS prediction, there is one team right now that I know is struggling for running back help, considering their main guy is maybe not a go for week 1, and that's the Houston Texans. CBS predicts that Ty Chandler gets traded to the Texans. Now, they did bring in Nick Chubb, so Nick Chubb could end up getting the nod, but remember, if Nick Chubb is your running back 1, if Mixon's a no-go, who's your backup to him? Do you see my point? So Ty Chandler could be a nice little early addition to the Houston Texans. And then, of course, when Joe Mixon comes back, it's probably just a, shoot him down the depth chart and then say sayonara at the end of the year. Our last running back rumor is Antonio Gibson, someone with some great hands, believe it or not. I think Antonio Gibson offers a lot in the passing game. As a runner, maybe not nearly as much. Now, I know that, yards per carry last year, he was really, really impressive. However, this, to me, looks like one of those situations because of the Travion Henderson and Ramondre Stevenson at the 1 and 2. Gibson's role, again, down the chutes. Here's what CBS had to say. Recently touched the diversity of the New England Patriots backfield, openly advocating for a shared workload with veteran Ramondre Stevenson and newcomer Travion Henderson. While we can envision with Coach Mike Vrabel buying into that sentiment, wishing to deploy this true running back committee, it does not mean that Gibson won't be a potential target for teams angling for a better pass-catching reserve. Stevenson just got a $36 million deal a year ago. Now, Stevenson is clearly a more talented back, albeit he has a fumbling problem. And Travion Henderson is clearly going to take over as RB1. He's just way too talented. So Gibson, to me, is in an interesting spot. He did have 538 carries, or 538 yards and 120 carries. But he only found the end zone one time. So to me, this is clearly if you need someone that can be a pass-catching back, this is your guy. Or if you're just desperate for any running back help whatsoever, which will lead me back to my previous sentiment. This is clearly a Miami Dolphins trade. But CBS says that they predict him to stay with the Patriots. I disagree. I think he is absolutely on the radar of teams that need a running back and need one fast. The Dolphins could easily send a 4th-round pick. And I feel like the Patriots would say, we'll send him to you. Here's his bags. He was himself a 3rd-round pick, but a little bit more wear and tear. I still think there's some value there. That's a 4th-round pick, in my opinion. But if you disagree, let me know in the comment section down below. Let's touch on the wide receivers before we get on out of here. These are, excuse me. I apologize for that. These are a little bit more ambiguous at this point, I want to say, because we've only seen one real report of a team clamoring for a wide receiver, and that's the Minnesota Vikings. And believe it or not, they have definitely been making calls about Adam Thielen. In fact, there's been major talk about him returning to the Vikings. I know that he's from Minnesota. I knew he grew up and played high school football in Minnesota. I know that my future sister-in-law went to high school with Adam Thielen. So he's got big ties to the state of Minnesota, and it feels like it would be a really good homecoming before he ends his NFL career. A couple other guys on this list, Jawan Jennings, who has not practiced all camp long with the San Francisco 49ers because he's in the middle of a contract dispute. So it feels like there's a team that maybe would want to make a call and say, we've got enough available cap to bring in a guy like Jawan Jennings. He wants somewhere around $20 million a year. I don't think he's going to get it, but he had a pretty good year last year. Make no mistake about it. And then, of course, the next guy on this list being Alec Pierce, the dynamic yards per reception player from Indianapolis, who, let's be honest, that's just a dumpster fire over there. Daniel Jones is your starting quarterback, and that has a lot to say about Anthony Richardson. So right now I look at Alex Pierce as a commodity because the Colts could be in major rebuild mode. Like, scrap it down completely, get rid of the coaching staff, get rid of the quarterbacks, and just build from the ground up. So, who's the next big wide receiver to get traded? Give me a name. I'm going to say Adam Thielen is probably your best bet, but it could be any one of those guys. Could be another guy. Either way, you let me know in the comment section down below. That is going to do it for us on today's episode. A reminder to like the video if you haven't already. Subscribe if you haven't already. And as always, my friends, get ready for NFL season and be cool.